What started as periodic forecasts warning about deficiency in rainfall is turning out to be a recurring phenomenon. Once again, the Meteorological Department has issued a warning that most parts of the country are likely to receive insufficient rain in the coming short rain season. The worrying part of the forecast is that less than 25% of the country is expected to receive near normal rainfall, affecting breadbasket areas of the Rift Valley and central Kenya, and raising fears of possible food shortages. This coming less than a year after the last drought. What lessons can be learnt and policies drawn to protect human life and the economy from such vagaries?
These were the scenes witnessed in Laikipia earlier on in the month. Several hundred travelers forced to spend nights by the roadside after their vehicles got stuck on a bad road due to overly wet conditions. That was in Laikipia. In other parts of the country like Kwanza, floods are now being reported in what experts agree are the effects of climate change, finally beginning to hit closer home.
I think it's quite clear that the climate change effects now is seen more than ever before. In 2008-2009, we did see the huge devastation that came in because of the huge drought. And the prediction then was that it would take another 4 years before we get to another drought. Therefore, it would have given us a relief to get back to our stocks. But now we see La Nina coming in at a lower frequency than was before.
Climate change is here. There is now an international consensus based on scientific facts that climate change is with us. Actually, the biggest question now is to what extent the climate change and climate variability that we are seeing is attributed to greenhouse gas emissions globally.
A report by the Kenya Red Cross Society indicates that last year alone, an estimated 10 million Kenyans countrywide faced starvation as a result of severe food shortages, which prompted the government of Kenya to declare a national disaster on the 16th of January the year 2009. The affected population segments included 3.2 million people located in drought-prone provinces, 1.5 million children under school feeding programs, 2.5 million vulnerable Kenyans affected by the various health and social issues, including HIV and AIDS, orphans and vulnerable children, and another 2.5 million persons under the category of the urban poor. And less than a fortnight ago, the Kenya Meteorological Department issued a warning that most parts of the country are once again likely to receive insufficient rainfall in the coming short rain season. This warning is similar to the one that preceded last year's near-disastrous food outlook situation, where government and other players were caught flat-footed by a crisis of critical proportions. Today, some organizations seem to be one step ahead, like in this case where the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, is already working with private sector organizations to improve warehousing and access to markets.
The initiative is trying to integrate smallholder farmers into national and regional markets. And we intend to contribute to the growth of food staples in the region, thereby promoting food security.
So just what policy should be put in place this time round now that a food security and adverse weather warning has indeed been sounded? Expert opinion charts out a three-pronged approach, highlighting climate change mitigation, adaptation to climate change, and creation of resilience.
The first one is to mitigate the impact of climate change. With mitigation, we are talking about replanting our forests. We go back and we do, Mau, the way we started. We do agroforestry, we do abadeas. Make sure that our forests are all planted. We need to develop adaptation policies that will make us adapt to, our communities to adapt to the effects of climate change. For instance, are we adapting our crop varieties so that we have crop varieties that are early maturing?
There's climate change mitigation, which basically means reducing the amount of emissions that we are generating. And there is climate change adaptation, which basically means designing programs to cope and build resilience among communities. in the rural areas.
We need to start thinking about building resilience. Now, resilience is about once the community are hit by the drought, for instance, or by floods, how do they pick up their pieces over the next couple of months and go back to their lives as normal?
Indeed, there are those farmers who have realized that should such a drought catch them off guard once again, it may mean disaster for their livelihoods and their families. And the last 15 months has seen them take great strides towards some form of adaptation. We traced one such farmer to his farm in Mwania Kilungu area of Machakos County, a place that was as dry as a bone less than a year ago, and that today has been transformed into a lush green area through the application of proper technology.
Sababu nakaa karibu na mto, nilionelea ni vizuri, sababu hii maji ni clean ile za mto, nitafute mifereji za 2 inches nikaiweka chini, alafu nikaishimbilia chini na mtu mwingine anaitwa Rafa Onsomo, ndio tuweke hii maji hapa, ndio tuwe tunanyunyizia, sababu hapa ukame inakuanga mingi kidogo.
His resolve is born out of the fact that so far market for his produce has been booming in this dry area, while bearing in mind that drier parts of the world are applying similar strategies with equal or greater success.
Kuna mtoto mmoja yangu msichana ameolewa huko Kericho na bwana yake wanakaa huko Saudi Arabia, alafu akaona hiyo vitu inaendelea huko na wakaniadvise tuende kwa Amirani hapa karibu na Embakasi tununue hizo vitu na tuje tu practice hiyo mambo ya kulima.
Experts agree that changing the way farmers and other vulnerable communities do things is the way to go, especially considering the levels to which the impact of climate change is expected to be felt.
Even if we put mitigation policies in place, which we haven't, but even assume that we did, we know that the impact of climate change is going to be with us for a long time. Even if we don't affect the environment any longer now, the impact will be felt over the next 90 to 100 years.
The tragedy surrounding the climate change phenomenon is the fact that on the global scale, Africa and closer home Kenya is responsible for a negligible level of the emissions that cause global warming.
We are responsible for a negligible amount of greenhouse gas emission. Actually, Africa is responsible for about 3%, thereabout, and most of that is in South Africa, actually about 60%, mainly because they have a huge industrial base and they rely heavily on fossil fuel to generate their energy.
Kenya in particular stands to get hit in more ways than one. Pakistan, recently devastated by floods, is a major consumer of Kenyan tea, and as disposable incomes and thus demand shrinks in that particular country, the impact will be felt across the world, including in its major tea source, Kenya. Such effects are what essentially spurred global experts under the Kyoto Protocol to develop the Clean Development Mechanism, or CDM, under which those pursuing clean energy earn cash rewards under the Carbon Credit Program. Several such local initiatives, including some under the United Nations Development Program UNDP, are focusing on enabling stakeholders access such incentives. For many though, the problem is much closer home, and homespun answers for now, or translation of global solutions into Kenyan answers, is what in their opinion really will make a difference for them and their communities.
Wito wangu kama serikali ingewezesha watu wengi kuwapatia soft loans, ndio sasa na wao watumie hii maji, ingekuwa mzuri.
Under the new constitutional dispensation and with an expanded regional kitty now designated to go towards grassroots initiatives, this then provides the perfect avenue for outreach to communities and individual farmers, much in the same way the much hyped fish pond initiative was done, and this time with better and in some cases even spectacular results.